Hey everybody, Hoosier Jedi here with another review for you. This time talking episode 6 of season 2 of The Flash called Enter Zoom. And this episode is impressive just in the sheer way it goes from mostly being kind of an almost comical episode to sorry, I'm just trying not to have the light from my kitchen shining right here into the camera. To being just full on really damn scary. And that kind of, as they say on TV tropes, mood whiplash is an impressive accomplishment considering that they do it really, really well this time around. So let's just kind of get right into things. Nothing really particularly huge to say about Joe this episode. Just sort of like I really did enjoy seeing him get in Harrison Wells' face. And it's just like, man, I'm going to kick your butt for this because look at how things turned out. And I really loved how Joe kind of got in there and said to Barry, like, look, he gave him that advice about how what Reverse Flash had said to him about how you'll never be happy. And Joe's there was like, man, come on, you know this was him getting one more dig in at you. And, who knows you better, you better, me or him. I mean, it was small, simple stuff, but it was pure Joe goodness. Iris also, kind of those small moments, but seeing her bond with Linda Park and becoming, really strengthening their friendship, sort of welcoming her aboard Team Flash. Again, good stuff. Now, I'm sure there are some people out there who are probably kind of upset that, yes, another person knows that Barry is the Flash. Well, again, having people find this sort of thing out is... I mean, it's simply good for the show's drama factor. Okay, someone finding out the hero's real identity, that's a big deal. And once they are in the loop, then you can play with them a lot more than you can play with them when they're not in the loop. And the longer you keep an established character out on the loop of something like this, the more and more dumb they seem. I mean, how many jokes about just how dumb Lois Lane must have been to not figure out Clark Kent was Superman. In fact, I think the actual Lois and Clark TV show from the 90s, there was a thing, I think it was from Lois and Clark, where some time traveler from the future turned up in Metropolis, and Lois was like, well, hey, tell me about the future. What do they say about me in the future? Did people remember me? And they go, well, yeah, and people remember you, but it's mostly for like, we just sort of stand around and scratch our heads and go like, how dumb was this lady that she couldn't figure out that Clark Kent was Superman? Which, given that Lois knew that at the time, had been since found out that Clark was Superman, she didn't take that terribly well. I mean, then again, if you go down in history as a case of how dumb was this person, it's a little hard not to feel that way. But anyway, I do like that Barry did reveal who he was to Linda because, as he says, Linda is going in there and she's putting her life on the line to help him. And I would say that really does earn her the right to know just the full situation. And again, this also sort of is another really great way to sort of bring Linda more fully into the loop, more fully onto the team. Because you have to remember, in the Flash comics, Linda Park is a very, very big deal. She's a really important character. And one of the things that really upset me last season was they brought her in. Her involvement with Barry was very, very brief, and it just didn't really feel like it was doing that character justice. Here, by trying to more fully involve Linda, by having her have this really nice bond that they're starting to percolate with Iris, then it sort of feels like they're taking a step in the direction that where the character is a stronger character and kind of really pays this character the respect she really does deserve. Nothing huge to say about Caitlin this episode. Again, just that she's one of those people that really is talking sense. She's like, you're not ready to fight Zoom. You should listen to Jay Garrick. He knows more about this guy than you do. And of course, no one listens to her. And they pay the price for that. Let's see here. So, Cisco's main thing, again, we got a lot of really fun Cisco moments, especially during the training montage. I gotta say, I love that part where Linda was like something was wrong with her goggles, and she immediately turns and points the things right at her face. Like, Man, that's why. I mean, that's like the same reason why you never look down the barrel of a gun. It's just like, oh. But anyway, yeah, lots of fun with Cisco there, and then that whole thing with him trying to vibe on Harrison Wells. Now you would think that Team Flash would be a little bit more like, hey man, if you want us to trust us, you're gonna have to let Cisco take a reading off of you, because we've been jerked around by somebody calling themselves Harrison Wells before. I mean, if you said no, then well, it's pretty easy for Barry to say swipe the glasses off his face and tell Cisco, yeah, okay, go do it anyway. I mean, what's Harrison Wells going to do? Jump back to Earth 2 and say, like, screw you guys, I'm going home? He ain't doing that. But nonetheless, what's really hilarious about that is Harrison Wells picks up what he's trying to do the first time, but when Cisco goes in there is even more blatant about what he's trying to do, Wells falls for it. And he doesn't even pick up that Cisco vibed on him that second time around. It's just like, really? Now, granted, he was pretty distracted, but still. This episode, we also get our first real look at Wells' daughter, Jessie, and we're introduced to how it is she's come to pick up the name Jessie Quick. It's sort of his little nickname for her. It's just sort of showing that she's a very smart girl who learns quickly. And yeah, sure, why not? I mean, in the context of the show, it works. And him being the one to give her that nickname, it kind of makes me wonder if, again, like I said, that maybe we might not see Earth 2 Harrison Wells become Johnny Quick by the end of this season. But then again, exactly how many speedsters do we exactly want running around? I mean, we've got Zoom, we've got Jay Garrick. There's the possibility that we might see Jessie Wells gain her powers. The comics, her real name is Jessie Chambers. Here on the TV show, her name is Jessie Wells. Wells Chambers? Pretty fitting. Now, of course, in the comics, Johnny Quick is John Chambers. But, you can't have everything. So, yeah. Let's see, what else? Patty Spivot, yeah, cool stuff with Patty. Her and her relationship with Barry is continuing to grow, be stronger. And she goes out there and she gets on Joe's case and is like, hey, why are we just letting this go? And Joe has to really kind of give her a, like, look, just give me some time and I'll explain this all to you. And given that they are housing an illegal prison there at Star Labs, you really do have to wonder. I mean, Patty is not the sort of person who's going to take finding out about that well. So what in the world is Joe going to pull out of his hat to kind of deal with this situation? And let's see. So, I guess maybe we should talk about Zoom. And, oh man, if there was ever any doubt that Tony Todd was wonderfully cast for this in this episode, I mean, as Zoom, or I should say, the voice of Zoom. Holy smokes, he was terrifying. I mean, you look at this guy and it's like, man, forget Reverse Flash. This guy is the scariest son of a bitch ever. And again, this is all Tony Todd with his voice, and credit to whoever it is that's actually in the suit doing that. I mean, just they know how to move their body and sort of do stuff with their eyes. But oh man, I mean, I was just watching this and I'm like, God, I would so have loved to see Zoom fight Reverse Flash. How crazy would that have been? But, I mean, Zoom just goes out there and destroys Barry. I mean, even the Reverse Flash did not kick Barry's ass this quickly or as badly. People have noted during this episode that the way he he's like basically paralyzes Barry from the waist down, and then he drags him around the city, sort of waving his body in front of the press, in front of the cops. It's extremely reminiscent of what Bane did to Batman in the famous Nightfall story from the comics, where he broke Batman's spine. Also, interestingly, in a nod to what looks like a very clear nod to the comics, when we find out about Earth 2 Oliver Queen and Robert Queen, it's Robert Queen who's become the Arrow, and supposedly Oliver died on the Queen's Gambit. So the father living and the son dying, and the father becoming the hero, is really reminiscent of what happened in the Flashpoint universe, where Bruce Wayne died, and it was Thomas Wayne who became Batman, except he was like super ridiculously violent and crazy. Now, I mean, this also kind of answers the question that a lot of people are probably asking, like, well, hey, what's going on with Earth 2 Oliver Queen? Well, at the moment, it looks like he's dead, but come on, Lian Yu, all the crazy stuff that goes on there. If they want to, say, dig out Earth 2 Oliver Queen at some point in the future and use him in a future season, they're not going to have too much trouble coming up with some reasonably believable justification for that. And again, I don't really think that they're going to go and have a whole lot of the Earth 2 major characters, I'm sorry, Earth 1 major characters be dead on Earth 2, just because that's just throwing away story potential, and no smart show ever does that. So, yeah, it really would not surprise me if somewhere down the road we actually didn't get to see Earth 2 Oliver Queen. And, let's see. One other thing I did want to mention, they talk about terminal velocity in this episode. And of course, in science, that's a real thing. Now, not that the Flash has ever been very hard with its science, but, points to that. I also remember terminal velocity being the name of a fairly notable Flash storyline from years ago, but I don't really recall any of the details of it. I think it was just one of those, like, some speedster is gonna die one of things, and then I think it might have actually been Johnny Quick who ended up dying in the end. I can't recall. It's quite a while back. And I do seem to remember, I think it might have been Wally, though, that actually did get hurt and was actually paralyzed from the waist down for a while. But again, this is really just vaguely tickling the memory of something I read, like maybe when I was back in high school or something. So that's been quite some time. More time than I really care to dwell on, sadly. Ain't none of us getting any younger, folks. But yeah, at the end of the day, this episode, I think, really kind of laid on the comedy just a little too thick in the first part, but I think that can be forgiven for them really just wanting to set us up for just the absolute gut punch they give us in the final part of the show. And, oh wow, did they ever succeed there. So yeah, I am beyond jazzed to see what's going to happen next week. I mean, Gorilla Grodd, it's cool that he's going to be back. But I gotta say, this isn't the most exciting thing. I really want to see some more Zoom. I really want to see Jay Garrick's reaction to this whole situation, which I'm gonna imagine involves a big fat "I told you so" in some form. But yeah, anyway, guys, I mean, the show has majorly jumped up a notch. They've taken their time, really letting things percolate. They've had all these really great moments, but here's where things really, the stakes go up, and it's good stuff. Anyway, I'm going to call it here. As always, please comment, rate, and subscribe. And of course, you can follow me on Twitter at Hoosier Jedi. Until next time, take care and have a good one.